When the first alien stepped onto my boat, I didn't scream. I'd looked into the eyes of great white sharks and kept my heart steady. But this was different. Dr. Alan Carter had never believed in fate. He believed in instincts, the kind you develop after swimming unprotected with apex predators for over a decade. The kind that kept you alive not by conquering fear, but by respecting it. It was a Tuesday unremarkable in every way until the sky cracked open. Alan had been inspecting his oxygen tanks aboard a small research boat just off the coast of Maine. The waves were calm. The seabirds circling overhead paid him no mind. Then without warning, a piercing light bloomed in the sky, white-hot, pulsing, and impossibly large. It didn't fall. It hovered. Alan shielded his eyes, heart thudding against his ribs. He knew the look of lightning. He knew the flicker of sun on swell. But this light was neither. It was watching him. And then it was gone. In its place stood three figures, tall and impossibly still, their feet somehow balanced on the rocking deck as if gravity meant nothing to them. Their skin shimmered not just blue but fluid, like sunlight refracting through seawater. Their eyes were black and deep, no whites, no pupils, just void. The tallest one spoke. "Dr. Alan Carter," it said in perfect English. Its voice was smooth like water sliding over stone. "I am Zinthar of the Veldari. We represent the Galactic Council." Alan didn't drop the tank, he placed it down slowly, carefully. He didn't want to spook them, not because they were aliens, because they reminded him of Orca's beautiful alien and deadly if misread. Zinthar continued, "We've been observing your work. Your time among Earth's oceanic predators has intrigued us." Another figure stepped forward, its long fingers webbed and gleaming like polished chrome. "You have a reputation. No cages, no tranquilizers. You swim with killers." Alan nodded slowly. "I don't swim with them to be reckless," he said. "I swim with them because it's the only way to understand how they think." The aliens exchanged glances, a subtle movement, like a silent current passing between them. "Your insight may prove valuable," Zinthar said. "We are inviting you to join our research initiative. A station beneath your ocean, a sanctuary and a prison for apex species from across the galaxy." Alan blinked. "Why me?" The third alien spoke now for the first time. Its voice had a sharper tone, almost insectile. "Because others fear, you learn." Alan's mind raced. An underwater station. Alien predators. The stars had always been a distant dream. But the ocean was home. Could he leave it? Zinthar stepped closer. "We depart now, if you are willing." Alan turned toward the horizon. The main coastline was just a smear of gray in the distance. His hands smelled of salt and rust and rubber. He thought about the thousands of dives, the near misses, the moments of awe. He dedicated his life to understanding Earth's fiercest creatures. Now something beyond Earth was calling. He didn't ask what the risks were. He only said, "Then I'm ready." The vessel moved like thought. Alan Carter sat strapped into a smooth, seamless pod that looked more like liquid metal than a machine. No engines, no buttons. Just translucent panels and a faint vibration in the floor, like the hum of a sleeping predator. Outside the pod's curved window, darkness swallowed everything. They had descended faster than any human submarine was capable of, past light, past heat, past the limits of oceanic maps. No sonar, no depth gauge, just the silence of pressure and the occasional flash of bioluminescence, like stars swimming through the abyss. He had spent his life descending into the ocean's secrets. But this was the ocean dreaming. The alien beside him, Zinthar, sat motionless, his silver suit blending with the pod's walls. Alan couldn't read the creature's face. No mouth, no muscles twitching with emotion. Just those bottomless black eyes reflecting nothing and everything all at once. "How deep are we?" Alan asked, his voice unnaturally loud. Zinthar didn't look at him. "Where human measurements end, ours begin." Then, like the sun rising beneath them, a soft glow bled into the darkness below. Alan leaned forward. At first it looked like a distant reef, then a dome, then a city, vast, complex, and glowing like a submerged galaxy. Towers twisted in impossible geometries. Tunnels of transparent material connected vast spheres suspended in water. Small vessels darted between structures like fish in a coral metropolis. Alien creatures moved inside shadows with limbs and colors no human anatomy book could explain. Alan's breath caught. This wasn't just a lab. It was a civilization. The pod approached a landing port nestled against a large glowing dome. As they docked, the walls of the vehicle shimmered and faded, allowing Alan to step directly into an airlock that adjusted temperature and pressure with a soft hiss. The door ahead of him slid open. Inside was a chamber of light blue, white, and violet, pulsing in slow rhythms like the breathing of a massive organism. Screens lined the walls showing images from all across the station, labs, habitats, containment zones, and aliens. Dozens of them. Different shapes, colors, species. Some had scales, others carapaces. A few floated above the ground. All of them turned to look at him. He was the only human in a city beneath the sea. "This is the central hub," Zinthar said. "From here we monitor the ecosystem of over 24 predatory species from across 13 star systems." Alan took a step forward, boots clicking on the smooth floor. "And you want me to study them?" "We want you to understand them," Zinthar said, "as you do your sharks, your orcas, your squids." Alan looked at one of the screens. A dark shape moved through a tank the size of a stadium. It was massive. Its body was slick and serpentine, but with armored ridges along its back. Luminescent organs pulsed on its head like glowing scars. Its mouth, when it opened, was layered with circular rows of serrated teeth that rotated like saw blades. Zinthar's voice softened, almost reverent. "This is the Deathstalker." Alan stared in silence. It moved like a ghost, smooth, deliberate, intelligent. It has never bonded, never shown restraint. It has consumed every species we placed in the tank with it. "And you want me to go in there?" Alan asked, half joking. Zinthar looked at him. "Not yet." Alan stood at the reinforced glass wall, watching the Deathstalker move like a living shadow through the water. The observation dome was cold, quiet, and bathed in a soft blue glow that barely reached the tank's depths. Every movement of the creature was purposeful, a slow drift, a pause, a flash of its glowing sensors. It was studying him just as much as he was studying it. Zinthar and two other researchers stood behind Alan, speaking in low-clipped tones. "It does not respond to feeding cycles," one alien noted, arms folded. "It chooses when to kill. It analyzes before it strikes," said another. "Predators do not do this." Alan smiled faintly. "Predators don't follow rules. That's what makes them predators." The room fell silent. Zinthar gestured, and the group moved to a nearby meeting chamber. Alan followed passing walls filled with holographic displays of alien life forms, some with wings like fractured glass, others resembling electric eels coiled into humanoid shapes. Inside the meeting room, 5 researchers of different species were already seated. One looked like a cross between a beetle and a bat, another like molten obsidian with eyes that shifted color as it blinked. Zinthar introduced them briefly, then turned to the group. "Dr. Carter has provided a new perspective." The insectoid researcher clicked its mandibles. "He believes the Deathstalker is not purely aggressive." Alan sat down calmly. "I don't think it's a killing machine. I think it's intelligent, strategic." The one with 4 arms leaned forward. "Your planet's predators do not compare to this creature." Alan shrugged. "Tell that to the great white shark that bit my leg in 2015, or the squid that wrapped my head like a helmet and tried to drag me under." A few aliens shifted uncomfortably. "I've seen violence," Alan said. "But I've also seen trust. You just have to learn their language." "Language," the beetle creature hissed. "It doesn't speak." "Neither do wolves," Alan replied. "But they speak volumes through posture, eye contact, movement." Zinthar studied him. "Would you demonstrate this belief?" Alan hesitated, then nodded. 3 days of observation, then I go in. No cage, no weapons, just me." The room erupted in overlapping alien voices, some angry, some amazed. One of them laughed, a high-pitched trill like cracking ice. "Many of us have placed bets on how long you'll survive," the beetle creature said. "My guess is 2 minutes." Alan smiled. "And what do I get if I prove you wrong?" No one answered. They didn't think he would. The door hissed shut behind him. Alan floated at the edge of the Deathstalker's domain, suspended in cold water that pressed in from all sides. His breathing mask fed him steady oxygen, but his heart beat loud enough to drown it out. Behind the thick glass of the observation room, dozens of alien researchers watched. Silent, expectant. No weapons, no cage. Just Alan alone facing the deadliest creature in the galaxy. He turned on the wrist light. A small cone of illumination cut through the dark, revealing shimmering particles and shifting shadows. Then in the distance, the glow appeared. Blue, bright, moving. The Deathstalker was awake. Alan stayed still, not frozen, composed. If there was one thing Earth's oceans had taught him, it was that predators respected calm more than bravado. The creature circled slow and silent just outside the range of the light. Alan didn't reach for it, didn't back away. He simply raised one hand palm open steady and moved it from side to side. The Deathstalker paused. Its sensors pulsed brighter. It drifted closer. Every nerve in Alan's body screamed. He was one wrong gesture away from becoming a red smear on the tank wall. But he remembered the sharks, the orcas, the squid. He remembered the power of ritual, of repetition. Alan turned his body gently and began to swim. Not toward the predator, alongside it. Parallel, equal. And the Deathstalker followed. Time slowed. Each second stretched into eternity. Alan kept his pace smooth, unthreatening. The Deathstalker mirrored him not as hunter to prey, but as companion observer. From the control room, Zinther stared in disbelief. "It's mimicking him," said one researcher. "No, it's studying him." Alan reached the far side of the tank. At the bottom was a large rock formation, like a resting place. He slowly descended toward it, arms spread to show he was not a threat. The Deathstalker hesitated, then followed. Alan settled on the sandy floor. The creature hovered for a moment, then incredibly lowered itself to the ground beside him. Still, watching, breathing in sync. Alan exhaled slowly, letting the pressure bleed away. The first session was over. He rose and swam calmly back toward the chamber door. From behind the glass, he saw the shocked faces of beings from across the stars, some wide-eyed, others speechless. He had done what no one else had dared. Not with weapons, not with power, but with understanding. Alan didn't just survive the second session. He thrived in it. He moved closer. The Deathstalker didn't attack. It watched, adjusted, even mimicked. Alan shifted his posture, slowly spread his arms to his sides, tilted his body on a diagonal. The creature mirrored the movement. The scientists were stunned. By the third day, Alan was within 10 feet of it, and it still hadn't struck. The room behind the glass began to fill with silent tension, a mix of admiration and confusion. "It should have killed him," one researcher whispered. "Perhaps it's confused," said another. "Perhaps he's communicating," said Morell, the station's senior behavioral analyst. Zinther said nothing. On the fourth day, Alan tried something new. As the Deathstalker approached, Alan extended his hand, not palm out, but palm up. He remained still, open. The creature slowed. Its glowing organs flashed softly, rhythmically. Then it drifted downward and rested nearby. Later outside the tank, the insectoid researcher approached Alan in the corridor. "It has killed 27 species," it hissed. "You are the only one it has not even attempted to strike." "Why?" Alan replied without stopping. "Because I don't behave like prey." The researcher clicked in frustration. "But you're not a predator either. Humans are soft. Omnivores, weak." Alan turned. "Then maybe your definitions are flawed." Inside the observation lab, Morell replayed the footage of Alan's sessions, frame by frame. He paused at a key moment when the Deathstalker tilted its head slightly in response to Alan's movements. "That's pattern recognition," he said aloud. "That's not instinct. That's learning." Zinther entered silently behind him. "It's a temporary anomaly. The human smells strange. It's throwing the specimen off." Morell didn't respond. He was too busy watching the way Alan moved, how deliberate, how fluid. It was a dance, not of dominance, but of trust. "He's not dominating it," Morell murmured. "He's aligning with it." By the fifth session, Alan and the Deathstalker had developed a routine, a ritual, a small movement pattern, a circular swim, a pause, a gesture, a descent. Every time the creature followed, Alan wasn't teaching it tricks. He was speaking its language. "How are you doing this?" the insectoid alien finally demanded during a debriefing. "It should see you as food." "It doesn't," Alan said. "Because I don't approach it like a scientist or a soldier. I approach it like kin. That's absurd, is it? Alan replied. On Earth, humans evolved beside predators. We didn't cage them. We survived them. We watched them, mimicked them, respected them. Morel leaned forward. Could you teach this skill? Alan nodded. Some of it, yes. The rest, this comes from instinct, from experience. In the tank, they moved like shadows through the waterman and monster orbiting each other in silence. On the sixth day, Alan held out his hand palm up once again. This time, the Deathstalker moved closer. Its glowing sensors hovered just inches from his skin. It scanned him not hungrily, but inquisitively. The sensors pulsed a softer shade of blue one Alan had come to associate with curiosity. Behind the glass, researchers held their breath. It's not responding with aggression, Morel whispered. It's engaging. This isn't right, Synthar growled. In the observation chamber later, arguments broke out. Some wanted to increase testing. Others wanted to end it. The Deathstalker is unstable, Zinthar insisted. The human's presence is disrupting its behavior. Or revealing it, Morel countered. Maybe this is its true behavior when it's not treated like a lab rat. The debate spiraled. Across the station, whispers spread about the human who had tamed the untamable, about the predator who had not killed him, about the possibility that perhaps fear had always clouded their understanding. Zinthar retreated to his private chamber, eyes fixed on surveillance footage. He rewound moments, studied expressions, body positions. None of it made sense. It's deception, he muttered. It's waiting, pretending. But even he didn't believe it anymore. That night, Alan sat in his quarters, staring at the dark water beyond his window. The tank was quiet now, but the creature still swam. He could feel it not with sight or sound, but something deeper, like a current beneath his skin. A pulse. A presence. Echo? He had started calling it that short for echo, because that's what it felt like, a reflection of something in himself. A mirror sharpened by instinct and survival. And in that silence, something changed. The next morning, as Alan suited up for what was supposed to be a routine session, the lights in the tank suddenly died. Darkness swallowed the chamber. The water turned ice cold. Alarms didn't sound. There was no announcement. Just silence and the sudden awareness that something was wrong. Very wrong. Control, what's going on? Alan called out. No response. He looked toward the viewing window, pitch black. Then in the dark, a glow. Not blue. Red. The Deathstalker's sensors pulsed like warning lights. It moved faster now, erratic, disturbed, angry. Alan remained still even as panic began to rise in his throat. This wasn't just a blackout. It was sabotage. And someone wanted him dead. In the control room, Zinthar stood watching. His voice was low, cold. Show your true nature, he whispered. Prove him wrong. The water chilled his bones. Alan's limbs were beginning to slow, each movement a weight. His breath came in short bursts through the rebreather, each one echoing loud in the absolute silence. The glow from Echo, red and erratic, pulsed like a warning siren just meters away. The predator was disturbed. Alan knew this wasn't anger. It was confusion. Fear. It's still me, Alan whispered through the mask, knowing the creature could sense the vibrations. Remember what we practiced. But the light stayed red. Echo swam faster now, wide sweeping loops around the tank. The sensors glowed with growing intensity, refracting off the darkened chamber walls like blood in the water. Alan tried to remember what would he do in the blackouts back on Earth. With sharks, with octopuses, he closed his eyes. Let instinct take over. He moved his hands slowly in the practiced circle, the ritual they had formed. Left, down, curve, drift. No reaction. Then he moved his entire body, slow, deliberate, into the same pattern they had repeated for days. A spiral, a swim, a pause. Something changed. Echo paused. The sensors dimmed. From red to violet to blue. Control, do you read me? Alan said again. Something's wrong with the station. Still no answer. He turned toward the tank doors they hadn't reopened. Then he noticed it. Cracks. Hairline fractures spreading across the glass. The sudden temperature drop had caused the containment shell to weaken. From the outside, alarm klaxons began to wail. At last. The tank is failing, someone shouted over the station-wide comms. Initiate evacuation. Alan swam fast toward the exit hatch just as the glass began to buckle. A hiss. Then a shriek of cracking metal. He reached the chamber lock just as it closed around him. The last thing he saw was Echo turning toward the breach, not to flee, to follow him. Alan collapsed into a half-flooded corridor as emergency lights pulsed red and yellow. His mask dangled from one side of his face. Alarms were screaming now. Lights flickered. Sirens blurred into chaotic alien voices across the comms. And then, a sound. Familiar. A soft pulse, a high-pitched call. Alan turned. Through the murky corridor water, Echo emerged, gliding smoothly, effortlessly, sensors glowing soft blue again. It wasn't hunting. It was following. "Hey there," Alan said softly. "Looks like we're both in trouble now." Echo hovered beside him, still and calm. Its massive form filled the corridor, dwarfing Alan, but made no move to harm him. If anything, it seemed to wait for him to act. A crash echoed from deeper in the station. Alan turned toward the junction. There, pinned beneath collapsed debris, was Zinthar, the alien researcher who had tried to kill them both. He was bleeding, trapped. "Leave me," Zinthar choked. "I made my decision." Alan hesitated, then looked at Echo. He remembered what he had said in the tank. "We don't dominate predators. We understand them, respect them. Sometimes we befriend them." He turned back to Zinthar. "I'm going to help you." The alien's eyes widened. "You're insane." "No, he's just human." The water was rising fast. Zenthar's leg was crushed beneath a collapsed pipe, his silver suit torn and leaking. He winced, eyes flickering toward the approaching Deathstalker. "Don't let it near me," he hissed. "It'll finish the job." But Echo didn't attack. It hovered behind Alan, watching, waiting. Alan turned. "Help me move this beam." Zenthar's eyes widened. "You're asking it." Alan didn't answer. He simply gestured, slow, deliberate, using the same motion he'd taught Echo in the tank. The creature watched for a second, then moved forward. With terrifying strength and surprising grace, it shifted its massive body, wedged one clawed appendage under the pipe, and lifted. Zinthar screamed as the weight shifted, freeing his leg. Alan pulled him clear just as more water gushed in from behind. In the distance, more crashing sounds echoed through the collapsing station. "We won't make it at this rate." Zinthar coughed. "The evacuation vessels can't fit something that size." Alan looked at Echo, then back toward the corridor. "We'll find another way." Back in the central hub, Morell and several researchers stared at the surveillance feed in stunned silence. There on screen was a human and the galaxy's most lethal predator, working together to save the very being who tried to destroy their bond. A Deathstalker cooperating. They said it couldn't be done. And yet, Morell stood slowly. "We need to modify the escape vessels. 2 of them. Remove the dividing wall. It will create enough space." A younger researcher hesitated. "That's against protocol." "So is everything that's happening." In the flooded corridor, the water was nearly chest high. Alan kept Zinthar's arm over his shoulder, Echo swimming beside them like a silent bodyguard. As they reached the emergency launch bay, the doors creaked open. A dozen alien researchers stared in disbelief. "He brought it with him." "No." Morell stepped forward. It followed him. Alan guided Zinthar into the vessel as others helped with his wounds. Echo hovered outside the hatch, too large to enter. Alan turned to the others. "It saved us. It deserves to come." The group looked to Zinthar. He hesitated. Then softly combined vessels 3 and 4. Remove the wall. The next moments were a blur of sparks, welders' commands, and rushing water. As the modified vessel powered up, Echo slipped inside, curling its enormous body into the chamber without protest. Alan climbed in last. As the doors sealed, the researchers stared not at the human, but at the predator sitting calmly at his side. The chamber was silent. Dozens of species from across the Galactic Council stared down at the scene before them, not in fear, but in disbelief. A human, and beside him the Deathstalker, standing still, breathing calmly, watching. Its glowing blue sensors pulsed softly, casting halos of light across the obsidian walls. A specially fitted breathing harness clung to its massive body, keeping it alive in the chamber's atmosphere. It had never been this close to so many living beings without striking. But now, it stood beside its human. Alan didn't speak first. Instead, he stepped forward and waited, not commanding attention but earning it. Finally, the council chair spoke, a serpentine being with eyes that blinked sideways. "Dr. Carter, the council has questions." Alan nodded. "So do I." A low murmur passed through the chamber. "You believe you have bonded with the Deathstalker?" "I don't believe," Alan said. "I observed, I learned, I communicated, and it responded." Another delegate, a crystalline species with shifting colors, leaned forward. But the Deathstalker has no language. Alan turned to Echo. He raised his arm, slowly, deliberately. Palm up. Echo responded not with words but with motion. It tilted slightly, lowered its sensors, and let out a soft, harmonic vibration. Not aggression. Recognition. Language, Alan said, turning back to the chamber, is more than sound. It's ritual, rhythm, trust, and for humans, it's survival. Outside the chamber, Zinthar watched silently from a medical platform. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt. He simply observed the man he had once called reckless, now standing in front of the most powerful species in the galaxy and changing the conversation. Later that day, the council convened privately. They debated for hours, not about containment or threat levels or whether the Deathstalker could be controlled. They debated something far more unsettling. What if humans weren't the anomaly? What if they were the key? When the council returned, the chair stood and addressed the galaxy. From this day forward, humanity shall be classified as predator communicators, a rare designation reserved for species with the capacity to understand, not dominate, apex life forms. Alan didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just looked at Echo, whose blue sensors flared once in response. He placed a hand gently against the creature's flank. "We don't tame monsters," he whispered. "We earn their trust." He never went back to Maine. Alan Carter, marine biologist, apex, behavioralist, earthborn anomaly, now lived among stars. But even here, he still thought in ocean terms. Currents, depths, pressure, silence. They had assigned him a habitat on one of the council's floating research vessels, a place of quiet reflection and controlled environments. A far cry from the rust-stained boats he had known, but in some ways not so different. It still smelled like salt. Echo had changed too, no longer kept in a tank. Now it swam in a specially constructed biogravitational sphere tethered to the station's outer ring. It could move, hunt, sleep, think, observe. The council still monitored it, of course. Old fear doesn't vanish in a day. But no one called it specimen anymore. They called it companion. Alan stood at the viewport each night watching Echo drift like a shadow through starlight. Sometimes it would stop, align itself with the window, and pulse its blue sensors in slow sequence. A greeting, a question, a memory. Alan would respond with a raised hand, palm up, a ritual that now felt older than speech. They were bonded, not by dominance, but by mutual recognition. News of Alan's sessions had spread far beyond the station. Across dozens of systems, research guilds began reassessing their predator containment protocols. Some invited humans to consult. Others sent their apex creatures for Alan to observe. He didn't accept all requests. He wasn't interested in becoming a celebrity, only a bridge between fear and understanding. One day, a young alien biologist, bright-eyed, chitin-skinned, asked him the question others had avoided. What are humans really? Alan took a long breath. He thought about Earth, about predators in the deep, about teeth and blood and the moments of stillness that saved his life. Then he looked at the student and replied, "We're the ones who learn to swim with monsters and sometimes befriend them." From that day forward, across dozens of worlds among beings who once believed humans were fragile and slow, a new phrase began to circulate, quiet, reverent, and just a little afraid. Don't underestimate a Terran. The galaxy moved on. Stars lived and died. Councils debated. Borders shifted. But in a quiet corner of known space, in a sanctuary, floating between systems, something rare endured. A man, a monster, and an understanding between them. Alan Carter no longer worked from behind glass, no longer observed from a distance. He now lived aboard the Cathari Outpost, a neutral research platform orbiting the oceanic moon Virex 4. The council had designated it a sanctuary, a place where no testing, no experiments, no containment protocols would be enforced. Only learning, only coexistence. Echo swam freely through the moon's alien oceans, monitored only by Alan and a small team of volunteers. No one touched the creature without Alan's consent and Echo's silent agreement. It had grown larger, stronger, but also gentler. Alan believed predators could evolve if given the chance. Some in the galaxy still didn't believe the reports, that a Deathstalker had refused to kill, that a human had entered its world unarmed and walked out alive. again and again. They called it anomaly, fluke, myth. But those who had seen it knew better. Alan sat most nights on the edge of the outpost's observation deck, legs crossed, palms open. He didn't speak much anymore. He didn't need to. Sometimes Echo would swim close to the window and hover there, just beyond the glass glowing blue in the filtered light. They would sit like that for minutes, hours. Two survivors. Two relics of instinct and blood, tethered not by dominance, but by mutual decision. We do not hurt what we understand. One evening, a young alien researcher, wide-eyed, newly assigned, asked Alan a question as they watched Echo drift through moonlight water. Is it tame now? Alan looked at the researcher for a long time, then shook his head. No, he said, it's still a predator. He turned back to the window. But so are we. In time, others came. From other worlds, other species, predators and sentients alike. They didn't come to dominate. They came to learn. And in the center of it all, a human and his monster, no longer symbols of fear, but of something rarer. Coexistence built on courage, respect forged in silence, and a kind of trust so deep it echoed through the dark, like a ripple at the bottom of the universe.